Special thank you to our sponsor, iGNX. iGNX isn't just a small business. It's a powerhouse ally ready to tackle your agency's toughest tech challenges head on. Specializing in low-code, no-code solutions, advanced analytics, and project management, iGNX is your go-to partner for both federal and commercial projects. But what sets iGNX apart? As a Salesforce Summit-level partner, the company brings unparalleled expertise across the entire Salesforce ecosystem. From MuleSoft and Einstein and Tableau, the expert teams at iGNX don't just build solutions, they engineer them, crafting robust data pipelines and creating stunning visualizations that drive real results. At iGNX, success isn't just a goal, it's a promise. The team is dedicated to delivering measurable benefits that transform your operations. Ready to partner with iGNX? Contact the team at info@igenx.com, spelled info@eigenx.com.
So on the confidence piece, though, the confidence I have not always had. In fact, I'm writing a book about that right now to tell stories and help women and girls be more confident earlier in their lives than I was. Because we need to hear that from other women and people from other underrepresented groups.
Welcome to GovCom Unfiltered, where your journey through the labyrinth of federal contracting begins. I'm Alexa Choi, your guide and host on this epic adventure. Here, we dive deep into the heart of government contracting, shedding light on the heroic tales of those who navigate its complex terrain. Our mission? To bring you closer to the action, revealing the critical steps, triumphant victories, and occasional pitfalls that our intrepid adventurers face. Your journey into the world of government contracting starts now, and we could not be happier to have you with us. Let's embark on this adventure together. Thank you for joining us today for GovCom Unfiltered. Today, our guest is Julie Vida. She has a very exciting background, in fact, one that involves being a helicopter pilot, a lot of years in the Navy. A great story, great leader, awesome person. And I'm super excited to have you here. Welcome, Julie.
Thanks so much, Alexa.
So what is your role currently? And then I want you to go into how did you get here?
Currently, my role is the VP of Defense Growth at ManTech. And I lead the team of business development executives, capture managers, and professionals and proposal folks and technical solutioners to put together the proposals that we, respond to RFPs and RFIs and the like from the government. How did I get here? Interesting. How I did not get here was from a career in capture or BD.
Right.
But I'm a retired naval officer, as you mentioned, so I have a very deep operational experience with the Navy. I joined the Navy on a whim out of high school. I have a twin sister, and when we were in high school, our senior year, looking at colleges and whatnot, she came home one day and surprised me with, "Hey, I just joined the Navy." And I was like, "Are you out of your mind?" I mean, we weren't raised to be military. Our father was a Marine, but we weren't raised that way. And so it came out of the blue. She said, "No, no, no." She was like every recruiter's dream. She said,
I'm sure.
"We can go in, we'll stay in for a couple years, get money for college, go out, and, do cool things, and then go do whatever we want." I was like, "Oh, okay." And we both really like foreign languages in high school. She said, "I signed up to be a linguist. And I'm going to go to language school, and I'm going to go be a spy. And do you want to come with me?" And I again said, "Are you out of your mind?" And then the next day I was like, "That sounds kind of cool." So yeah, so we enlisted in the Navy together. We went to boot camp together. Or again, initially it was supposed to be do two years and get out, or 3 years and get out, or whatever. But I loved it from the first day. The structure, the rules. I'm still a rule follower to today. So we go off to language school. We do, in fact, learn Russian. We think we're going to be spies or attachés or whatever it is. And an opportunity came up to go to the Naval Academy. And I was like, "What's that?" I had no idea what that was. So
small school, Annapolis, never heard of it.
yeah, well, yeah. So in fact, my career counselor said to me, "Well, have you heard of West Point?" I said, "Yeah, kind of." And she said, "It's like that, but for the Navy." I said, "Okay." So I'm so embarrassed to say that today, but that was a long time ago. So I go off to the Naval Academy, and wouldn't you know it, the year I graduate, women were finally allowed by Congress to go into combat roles. Totally a timing thing. And I was so fortunate. So my female classmates and I got to go experience like what all the men had always experienced, with except for SEALs and submarines at that time. We were able to go on combatant ships and fly combat aircraft. It was fantastic. So I drove ships for a couple of years, and then an opportunity came up to go to flight school. Again, something I had never thought of, and I had never like flown a flight simulator or played a flight simulator game or been in a cockpit or anything. Opportunity came up, and I said, sure, I'll go do that. And I go off to flight school, and I have to say I didn't love it. It's hard and scary. But I got my wings and made it through flight school. Chose helicopters for a variety of reasons. One, I wasn't that great at landing an airplane because I got scared pointing the nose at the ground. And two, all the helicopter instructors were much cooler than all the other instructors. So
I'm sure that's true. I'm sure. Were you the only woman in your class?
I was one of two in my winging class. There was another woman who is now also a retired naval officer. She did some years as an aviator, and then she transitioned to foreign area officer. But the two of us in our winging class, which is when you complete flight school, and I think we had almost 30 in our class. So pretty small minority.
So kind of what it's like going today into any meeting in ManTech?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So no, actually, that's not true. Things at ManTech and in industry in general have gotten a lot better. I don't know how it is in flight school or, any other military school for that matter, but things have gotten a lot better. That was the early days of women being able to do the combat roles. So it makes sense, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So I transitioned from flying or driving ships to flying, and then I was really fortunate to be assigned to some really cool squadrons out of San Diego, and I got to fly. I was on 5 different deployments on 4 different aircraft, including twice on the Nimitz in the aircraft carrier wing, which was cool. Also was deployed when 9/11 happened, so was thrown right into the mix with everybody else, the Navy and the Marine Corps pilots that were on the ship. And fortunately was never like sent in country into Iraq or Afghanistan. Again, fortunately, but combat was all around me. Bad guys were all around us, and there were some pretty harrowing times. But did that for about 12 years, and then it was time to go to the Pentagon. And so I take my orders to the Pentagon to be some admiral or senior executive's assistant, and I happened to be assigned to the Office of the Chief Information Officer, and I was like, what's that? I'd never heard of that. Pilot. We just don't, you're not thinking about that. And so that was where I did my pivot to technology. And it wasn't planned. I didn't even want it. I was like, oh no, IT stuff. I was a history major. I have a master's degree in leadership. And then I was a pilot for all that time. I was like, I don't know anything about IT. Turns out, if you're curious and you like to make relationships with people, they will help you learn things. And I'm a quick learner, so I quickly kind of earned my stripes as she knows what she's talking about here. And by the time my 8-year Pentagon assignment was over, 4 in uniform and 4 as a civilian, and I didn't even hate it really that much. I'm kind of strange that way.
Except the parking. The parking's a little bit wild over there.
The parking is wild, and I was on the back 40. I was GS-15 by the time I left there, deputy CIO of the Navy, and walking in from that umbrella. And so that was really where I got my, what's the word? I cut my teeth. I cut my teeth on IT, learning all things about IT policy and implementation in the DoD, and expanded my aperture from the Navy only to all of DoD, including the state, DISA, and all the agencies and all of that. And did that for a few years, and then I went off to Gartner, an IT research firm IT research and advisory firm that wanted to hire me because of my ability to speak tech, but in like normal people terms, and my relationships in the federal government. So I did that for about 3 years, then pivoted one more time to Splunk, a software company. So I learned about software, I learned about SaaS, and did a lot of thought leadership and technology evangelism, which I think is how I met you, and being out doing things like this. And I did that for almost 5 years. And then it was just time for a change.
Right.
ManTech came along, and I said, I haven't done like a pure systems integrator role. ManTech has a great reputation for veterans and government civil servants, former, and is really mission focused. And those are my people. And that's how I landed up at ManTech.
Wow, what an incredible story. So, I mean, are you going to run for president next? I mean, what's next? Like, literally, this is just so inspiring of a story.
Thank you. You're not the first person who's asked me that, actually. Unfortunately, it's just like a lot of other people who really want to do good things for the world and the government. Most of us are just not that interested in jumping into that kind of scrutiny and negativity. And unfortunately, that's what it is right now. I'll leave it at that. But it's not the right time,
Yeah.
Alexa, for me
I was
to.
totally kidding, but I love how serious you are about it. I was kidding. I love it. No, but you know what? I think about your career as it evolved, right? You were like Navy commander, helicopter pilot. Then you kind of came out around the IT side, and then you went to go work for Gartner, and then Splunk, which is hardware, software type of stuff, software actually. And
Software.
then you went into ManTech, which is like more the systems integrator and pure services. So if you think about it, if you took your resume and kind of like went back, you would see the full picture. And what's interesting to me is like you kind of took the opposite route than what a lot of people do. You went, you started over here and then you went this way. When some people go that way, and everybody's journey is different. But what's really nice is that you hit on each one of the pieces. So you can talk to pretty much anybody in the industry. You've
Mhm.
either done a job, you've had them reporting to you, or you've reported to them, which is really valuable.
Thank you. And I love how you put that. I might use that. I usually talk about my story as like an arc, and here's the thread that goes through it. And that is
Right.
trying new things, learning new things, relying on other people to get smart about new things, learning fast, being confident, and moving on to learn something new. But I like how you talk about, you're right. A lot of people come out of the military and they go right to the integrator
Right.
because it's a quasi government,
Right.
still speak government and all of that, and then kind of work their way into high tech or,
Yep.
emerging startups and all of that. And I didn't realize it was happening at the time, but you're right on another point, which is I hit the different elements of the industry, the software, the services, the advisory slash consulting. And
Yep.
it's really like MBA in a day. I mean, it's taken me 10 years, but I'm learning everything about the industry and business on the job, and by learning from really awesome people who teach me by showing me and including me. And it's a great way to learn.
Well, one of the things I love the most about you, and I always have since I first met you, is if I had to think of one word that described the way you approach your career, is kind of fearless. Like you don't let some stories that might be in your head, or like the whole concept of imposter syndrome doesn't even occur to you. You're just like, sure, I like new things. I like to learn new things. Let's go figure it out.
I have gotten better as I've gotten older, but you're right. It's funny. Sometimes people remind me of things that I should know about myself that I don't know about myself. In fact, I have a good friend, you know her, but anyway, she said to me one time, I said to her, I'm kind of risk averse. I didn't want to be a fighter pilot because I don't like, pointing my nose at the ground. And, I really wasn't interested in going into like the hot spots in Afghanistan and Iraq and all of that. And she was like, are you kidding me? If you're risk averse, what do you think that says about the rest of us? And she said, this, that. And I'm like, yeah, I guess you're right. And so you are right. I did jump into a lot of things, my eyes shut, and just kind of hoped it would all work out, and it did. But I also, on the confidence piece, though, the confidence I have not always had. In fact, I'm writing a book about that right now to tell stories and help women and girls be more confident earlier in their lives than I was. Um, because we need to hear that from other women and people from other underrepresented groups, not just women, but people of color and other
Right.
groups that are kind of on the fringes, particularly in technology. And I didn't have those people. I wasn't in technology, so I didn't have people kind of boosting me up. And naval aviation itself, for men, for everybody, is unrelenting and unforgiving in terms of weakness. You will not show weakness. You must be the best. Kind of pretending that everybody should be like Goose and Maverick on day one of flight school. It's like that. So I never really felt confident. I always felt like I'm good enough and I'm a good person and people like to work with me, and that's good and that's success, and I'll move on, which is good, but it's not the same as being confident. It's not the
Right.
same as knowing I know what I'm talking about. Do I get things wrong? Yeah. Do I know everything? No. But I'm smart enough to be able to read a situation, kind of assess it, and help other people assess it. And that's really what success is all about, is helping other people too.
Right, right. Yeah, I think people lose sight of the forest through the trees or something like that. Whatever that saying is
Yeah.
about, yeah, you kind of forget that, in order to be successful, it's about that. This is one thing I always say is like, if you think you're a leader and you look behind you, if there's nobody there, you're just taking a walk. Like you're not
Yeah.
leading it. So, I think more people should do that looking around, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Federal proposals, your voice, less time, exceptional results. Voltron gives you the power of custom language models to reduce proposal development costs by 54% and start to finish submission time by 63%. Voltron is the only AI platform that synthesizes the valuable business development and capture information you obtain to write high-quality compliant proposal content specific to your company in each solicitation. Stop throwing it over the fence. Schedule a demo today at vultron.ai.
Yeah.
So let me bring it back to ManTech for a second. I'm a big fan of the firm. Actually, my previous small business that I worked for was one of their 8A JV partners, and I led the conversations, and it was with some of the Space Force team, the BK over there, good friend of mine, and so I'm a big fan of the organization in general. And I also like how mission is number one to them. I mean, if somebody asked me who was the most innovative cybersecurity leader as an SI, I would say ManTech. I feel like they really own that and they work hard at it and they earn it. So I would love to know how are, big traditional contractors like ManTech pivoting to address innovation and newer ways of doing business. So, remote collaboration, more women in leadership roles, diversity, and things like that. And then also, as it comes to delivery and showing up for the mission, how does it all kind of play together?
Right. Well, you put your finger on one of the main reasons that I decided to go to ManTech. I wasn't interested in going to an integrator. I really wasn't. I had really enjoyed the fun, innovative, cool tech at Splunk. I enjoyed being on the consulting side, not consulting, but advising side at Gartner. And I kind of had always pushed that away, kind of like a lot of people coming out of the government and the military push sales away. Oh,
Yeah.
I'll do anything but sales. Really, they don't know anything about sales.
Hey,
I really didn't know anything about the integrators. I just knew I didn't want to do that.
right.
But the reason I got pulled in was because I started talking to people about ManTech has a fantastic reputation with the government, which is hard. The government is often not really inclined to say that they love their vendor partners, right? That they really enjoy working with an integrator. But I was hearing more and more that people had that thought about ManTech. So as I started to look into the company and interview for the position, they were telling me that with ManTech's evolving. The company is 58 years old, 59 years old, and
Wow.
evolving in the last couple of years to keeping our cyber focus, because that's always been the core capability. In fact, the first contract that ManTech ever won was a Navy contract.
Really? I
So
don't think I knew that. Wow.
yeah, so we've always held on to that. Added on a lot of staff augmentation, like a lot of the big integrator firms have done for a while, and some O&M, maintenance. Even today, we still do maintenance on MRAPs over in Europe and things like that. But right now, engineering, we say like wrapped in services, because you can't just hand that over to the government and say good luck, because
Right.
they're not going to be successful, So the services are wrapped around the high-end tech and the engineering. I said, now that's
Right.
something I can get behind. And that is what ManTech is doing. So we are now building out a whole AI practice with like top brains in AI, folks that worked on the Watson project at IBM, people that are leading in AI in startups and bigger companies and the government. We still have our cyber thread, setting up a professionalized practice around that, and other high-end engineering and technology. So we are in that pivot right now. And it is just like any other change management, effort, activity. There are fits and starts. We're going to get some things wrong, but we're getting a lot of things right. And that's because we already have the relationships. We already have we're like you because, we know you because we are you. It's not really just a tagline. ManTech has almost 10,000 employees and almost 50% of them are veterans. That's not insignificant. So I should say that is significant. When you add on top of that former government civilians, it's almost 80%-ish.
Wow.
So we really are about the mission. We only sell to the government, the federal government. So
Right.
we're really focused there. We're mission first, client first. So all of that is what led me to ManTech and what keeps me there and what keeps a lot of people there, because a lot of companies say that they do that, but they have other priorities. Now it's a business. It needs to be profitable. We need to make enough to make it viable as an employer, but there is no question that we are about our clients and our mission first. And that's really special.
I love it. Yep, absolutely. And I do know that ManTech is leading in a lot of different areas, innovating, and the AI practice sounds really, really cool. So as we kind of talked about before, when you first joined ManTech, you didn't have a deep history in services business or, as systems integrators or how it works. So in your role, what did you learn first? And what do you think is the most important part of your role?
What did I learn first? When I joined, my predecessor had left months before, so I wasn't able to learn from someone who had moved up in the company or had really left a pass down binder or anything like that. But what I did have was a team of people who some had been around for a while, some had been around for a couple years, some more than that, who were always open to answering my questions. And that's one thing I've learned over my career is to just be curious and ask questions and don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to look dumb, because none of us can know it all. I mean, you might, but everyone else, we all are still learning. But one of the things I learned that was most important from the get-go was in reviews about opportunities, don't get stuck in the details of, I'll just be really tactical. Like this goes on this slide and this goes on this piece of paper and what is the story about the opportunity and where are our strengths and where do we need work, and be honest about it up front. It seems, as I'm saying these words, it seems like, well, no kidding. That's of course how you would talk, but you would, it's very easy. No, right? It's
Yeah.
very easy to get sucked into the nitnoid details, but those are all internal details. Those have very little to do with the client.
Right.
And so the second thing I learned is having this client focus, which we had at other companies, but not like we have it at ManTech. That keeps you centered on what is important. Why are we having this conversation in the first place?
Right.
What are we trying to help the government do? Oh, trying to help them recover astronauts faster, when they come back from manned spaceflight missions.
Right.
Oh, we're trying, that kind of thing. And
Right.
when we had conversations about that and keep the mission and the client centered, it was easy to then talk about what do we have to offer? Who else can we get on our team? How
Right.
can we get to the win? Because the win is all about making the government,
Yeah.
achieve their mission. So I would say those things. And then there's all the other details in between that I've been learning, but we can talk about that over coffee.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's pretty fascinating what you bring up, because I consider myself a little bit of a subject matter expert when it comes to doing step reviews, but only on the small business side. And you want to talk about a difference. I've been a part of ManTech step reviews, and it's a night and day difference, right? The amount of rigor, the amount of people assigned to it, the B&P dollars that are spent is two different things, right?
Yep.
But I do
In
think
fact, can I pull on that real quick?
Please
Because
do.
that's one thing I had zero appreciation for when I was in the government. I learned it more when I was at Gartner and Splunk, the investments that companies make, particularly in a software company, the investments that you have to make to get RMF compliant and, get your IL5 level certification and all that stuff. That is not cheap. That is not easy. And it takes a long time. So I started to learn, but when I was in the government, I did not. So now on the ManTech side, that I try to talk about those things and be really honest about those things when I'm on panels or talking with the government, because a lot of them, that's not their world. So they don't know. We actually lease facilities. We hire hundreds of people ahead of need. We build out skiffs. It's unbelievable the amount of investment, because that's what the government needs.
Right.
And it's shocking, but that's, you have to spend money to make money. And often we don't have exactly what the government needs. So we have to go get it or go buy it or go build it. And if we don't want to do those things, then we decide not to go after that opportunity. But man, have I learned a lot in 6 months.
It sounds like it. I remember I had coffee with you at the end of the year and you were kind of new, and it was just like, this will be so exciting to hear kind of like your thoughts and your growth and what you're excited about over the time. I did a
Yeah.
tour of the cyber range down in Stafford, I think it's in
Stafford? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the Ames CIO and CTO for NASA flew out and we met them there and we did a whole demonstration with ManTech and it was just so cool. Probably like one of the coolest things I've ever done with the government. So I hear you on that whole got to spend money to make money. And you also have to be positioned correctly for when opportunities come out. And that's really how you do it. People ask me that all the time, like, how do I get positioned for this stuff? Well, do the things the whole time, not just when the RFP drops, you know?
That's exactly right. It's like, you know, I'm a networker. And so social media and and certain platforms, I don't know if I'm allowed to say, but certain platforms are where I've built relationships with you, with other people, with agency level CIOs, with super, you know, famous people. And that is where we engage. And it's not selfish and it's not like, oh, I'm going to build this relationship because I need something from Alexa someday.
Right.
It's authentic engagement. You make friends before you need friends. And that's how all of life is. You know, don't be a jerk your whole life
is
and
like
then
that.
start pretending you're nice, you know. So yes, do the thing before the need comes. If you're not the person or the company with it, then go look for something else. You know, that's a fit for sure.
Yeah. No, I love it. And I also want to kind of think a little bit more about doing your step review from a story perspective. Because I think you're right. If you put mission first and you tell the story, then you can figure out all the other things around it. And that never occurred to me because I'm always like, get your tactical details right. And what's your plan B? And what's your plan C? And what happens if it goes hub zone? You know, and kind of like thinking so in, like you said, in the weeds. That I think if we all, even small businesses, thought about it from the mission story, okay, start there, work backwards. Maybe you'd get to what makes sense faster.
That's exactly right. And really, we all can look at our own personal lives and how we like to engage with industry and people that we buy things from. When you're going to buy a car, do you care if the salesperson is telling you about all the, you know, the features on, you know, this part of the car? That's interesting. But if they don't ask you about what's your lifestyle, are you going to be commuting? Do you want to use this to go on trips? You know, they're not going to get it. They're going to lead you to a vehicle that they like or that's expensive. And you're going to be like, you don't even know me. You know, you don't even care about me. It's the same thing. You know, I want to be somebody like that people want to come to me just like I want to go to when I'm ready to spend money on something.
That's like such a great analogy. I mean, yes, a car salesman and what we do is some people would be like, did she really make that comparison? But what you just, the way that you just explained it was so great because you're right. How many times you get in front of like a government point of contact and you just go through this big PowerPoint deck, 90 of which they don't care about. Like start asking the questions like, what do you, not in the old question, like, oh, what's your pain points? Like, that's like the worst question to ask, right? More like, what, yeah, we've got work to do from that angle, though, Julie.
I mean, there is work to do. There is work to do, but we're getting there.
Okay, so next question. What do you like the most about your new role?
I like the fact that I get to recreate and rebuild an awesome team.
Awesome.
When I mentioned when I showed up, my predecessor had left a couple months before that, and some people had left for a variety of reasons. There were probably people in roles that they weren't really suited for and that weren't making them happy, honestly. And one of the first things my manager and I talked about was let's put some time into putting people in the right seats. And I use sports analogies, even though I'm not really a sports fan. But one of the analogies from one of the big football coaches was about after spring training. Hey, coach, how are you so successful? After spring training, I make sure that the right players are on the bus and that they're in the right seats. And so that's what I did. And I literally made index cards, which each person's name. And I did, here's my BD team, and here's my capture team, and here's my proposal operations team. And I put index cards and I moved people around based on what I was learning about them, what they were telling me about what they liked and didn't like, what their skills were, where the gaps were. And that was like in my first month or 6 weeks or so. And so at first I was like, I can't believe I have to do this. Like I knew the job was going to be hard. I knew I was going to have a lot to learn. I did not know I was going to have to, you know, kind of rebuild the team. So I looked at it at first as like something I wasn't really expecting, but now, oh my gosh, what a blessing. Because as it turns out, people really appreciate it when a leader takes interest in them and wants to make sure that they are in the right role. And so now, all these great folks are coming in to want to work on the team and move around and try different things. And it's like night and day from where it was back in November or December. And that has now become the best thing is helping people thrive in the role, build the team that I know we need to grow in the way that that ManTech needs us to grow, and that our private equity partner need us to grow. And it's just, I'm not the first one to say the first thing. Sometimes we look at problems and then we see them as opportunities. This is an opportunity, and it's fantastic. That is the thing I like the best.
I think that's great that it wasn't what you expected, right? That's like, it's like you're still learning, even as a leader, even having been a leader for so many years. You're just like, you just learned something new. But I think anytime that you can set the tone for your team that's going to report to you is always going to be better than coming in and trying to figure it out. Storming, norming, forming before you can be performing takes longer if you're dealing with a team that has its own things, right?
That's right. That's right.
Okay, so the next question, Julie, what does the next 5 years look like? I mean, we already ruled out presidency. Unfortunately, I'm very sad now. I don't have that choice to vote for you this year. Back to Ted Lasso. I think I'm going to vote for Lasso and Beard. But no, so what about you? What does the next 5 years look like?
Let's see. Personally, the next 5 years, I mentioned I'm writing a book, so I had intended for it to be out sooner than it is, but I am making progress. It's good. I finally invested in a publisher, so she keeps me honest and keeps me on track. Excited about that. My son will be finishing up college, so kind of helping him move into the next phase. My husband and I will probably move somewhere else because, of remote work. I'll be near a major airport. Yeah, that's always important, but we'll probably go
That's like a given. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Professionally, the way things are rolling at ManTech, we're in such a change period right now, and we're private equity owned. So there is a date in the future where there will be some event that will turn into either we go public again or they sell us off to another entity. I want to be around for that. And so that's what I'm looking for. I don't really see myself being in the same role though. There's a lot of opportunity in ManTech for me to still, after I show some progress, make some drive some success and help us grow the business. I'm really interested in learning in other aspects about the business, and I don't even know what that is yet, but that's like life today. Like things are changing, jobs are opening up, technology is moving around the world, geopolitical situation. Like, holy cow, thinking about what might actually be our reality 5 years from now can be scary if you sit around and think about it too long. So I try not to put too much pressure on knowing I'm going to be doing this. I feel like it's not going to be exactly what I'm doing now because there's so much more in me to learn and grow into.
Wonderful. I love it. Yeah, no, I always say throw it to the universe and say surprise me. You're like, even if you try to like imagine, like you just never know all the different things that could happen with the rise of AI. It's just like, I feel like it's a time of wonder, right? We're living in the wonder time, wonder years.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right, so I am going to go into the last two questions that I ask everybody. But before I do that, I want to ask one more question. Now that you've been on the contracting side for a while, what do you think our biggest contribution is to the industry?
I feel like our biggest contribution is to still, while we're delivering solutions and selling them and, working on going after the RFP and all of that, the biggest contribution we can make is educating the government and the workforce about the technology. There are still, we have advisors, we have consultants that we use. Many of us former federal civilians, we all know that the level of, I don't want to use the word literacy because I don't mean illiterate, but the level of knowledge and understanding in most of the government is still at a very immature level in terms of what does AI mean and why is it important to the military? How can we drive mission outcomes using this thing called AI that a lot of people, still do this with air quotes. And don't really know what it is. There's such an opportunity to accelerate the knowledge and understanding, because not everyone likes for other people to know that they don't know things.
Well,
A
yeah, I
lot,
think that's pretty much true for everybody.
right, exactly. So how are they learning about
Right.
all this rapid advancement in large language models and not
Right.
only AI and all that? What about quantum? I mean,
Right.
we're on like the edge of quantum, and that could like really rock our world. And I know like 2 people that know stuff about quantum. So, yeah, I shouldn't say that. 2 experts in quantum. So we can do it in terms, we have the resources, we have the skills, we have the access to R&D, we have the access to academic institutions. And as we are talking to clients, customers, prospects, and the public about what we can deliver to them, we really better be using that opportunity to also teach, so that others can sit and passively take in what they need to know without having to raise their hand and say, can you send me to school because I don't know about this? We can and should be doing that. That's a huge contribution
Yeah.
from the GovCon industry.
Perfect. What a great answer. All right, so we're going to go into our last 2 questions. First one is, if somebody was watching you, and I know a lot of people do, and you wanted to give some advice to somebody who might be inspired by your story, what 2 pieces of advice would you give?
I would say, when people tell you that you're good at something, believe them and stop questioning yourself about whether you can or should be doing the thing that you're
Right.
doing or afraid of. Especially people that you trust and people that know you. Stop doubting yourself. Stop kicking yourself in the butt. Listen to other people. That's one. The next piece of advice is to be inquisitive and humble, and ask questions of people as you need to learn things. 1, it shows that you're interested in other people. 2, it shows that you're not a jerk that thinks you know everything. 3, you can actually learn a lot of stuff and not have to keep going to school and take classes and all of that, and learn what's real in the world, how people are actually applying the knowledge that they have. And oh my gosh, I mean, all the jobs that I've had, Alexa, I don't have the credentials on paper for those jobs, but I know enough to ask the right questions, and I'm a quick learner. So yeah, be humble and inquisitive and learn from others, because I think that also means you're not a jerk, and nobody wants to work with jerks. So those are the 2 big ones.
Awesome. What great pieces of advice. I really like those a lot. And I have a good friend who always, anytime I tell her something, she'll be like, tell me more, say more words. Why did you think that? And if I have a problem, I'll come to her and she'll say, do you want me to be supportive about this? Or do you want me to, it's just like such a funny way of approaching it. But it is really a great way to communicate, right? Is to approach everything with a curious mind. So that I feel it's really great advice. All right. Second question is, what is your superpower besides flying helicopters and being a total badass? Besides that, what is your superpower, and how did you know when you found it?
I am a connector, and I love to connect people and ideas. What do I mean by that? When I meet someone, anyone, I can't help it, but as they're talking to me, I'm thinking, ooh, I should connect them with Alexa, because they have talked about, they live in Fairfax County and they see all these companies and all these acronyms on these buildings. They don't know what they are. And I say, well, they're systems integrators, and what's that? And I totally made up that scenario, but that's how it happens. Having a conversation, connect them with Alexa. I do it on LinkedIn. I do it in person. I do it for other people, for myself. And it's authentic. It's because I want people to know each other and to like each other and to learn from each other. And it's been part of my success, because back to me not knowing everything, which, no one can, knowing or being able to sense who might know someone who could help me, or who might have that knowledge. I mean, it's a game changer, and I really enjoy doing it. And the way I found out that I was good at that, I have a dear friend who actually works at ManTech now. We went to the academy together, and now she works at ManTech.
Awesome.
And I think it was about, small world. I'm a connector. And about 10 years ago, I was still in the Pentagon. Yeah. And we were meeting for lunch at Pentagon Row, which is all the restaurants right across the street. You know what it is, across the
Oh.
street from the Pentagon,
Mhm.
where people go have lunches and dinners and things like that. And she and I were having lunch, and we were coming out of this restaurant, and in comes this Marine Corps 1-star general towards us who she didn't know. And I say, oh my gosh, excuse me for a second. And I go right up to him and I say, General so-and-so, you may not remember me, but we worked on the Navy staff together in Crystal City. And do you remember that meeting that we were in? And he was like, oh yeah, I remember. Your name's Julie, right? And we start having this conversation, and then, oh, okay, well, see you at the next AFCEA event or whatever. And General so-and-so goes walking over, and I go back to my friend, and she was like, what was that? You didn't even know him. And I mean, you kind of knew him, but he didn't know you. And she said, that is incredible. And
Yeah.
I said, oh, I guess that is kind of unusual. And then my husband's pointed out that I do that sometimes too at events. He's like, how do you just go up to these people who barely know you? And I said, because we have something in common, even if it's one little thing, a little hook.
Yeah. I
People
think
like to be noticed, they
comes-
like to know that people remember them.
it comes back to that word fearless, right? People get so paralyzed by networking and talking to people that they don't know well, and they get so wrapped up in their own head about it. But you, going back to what we had said in the beginning, so fearless, and it really does make you an inspiring leader.
Thank you so much. Your opinion means a lot to me. You know that. And I'm so grateful that you're in my orbit and I am in yours. And really happy we had a chance to spend time today.
Well, thank you so much, Julie, and catch us next time on GovCom Unfiltered. I cannot wait to see you there. And Julie, this has been a real pleasure and really exciting talk, so thank you.
Thank you.
As we draw the curtain on today's chapter of GovCom Unfiltered, I want to thank you for joining us on this remarkable journey through the intricate world of federal contracting. I'm Alexa Choi, and it's been an honor to navigate these stories of courage, innovation, and resilience with you. Until we meet again, keep pushing boundaries, exploring new horizons, and making your mark in the government contracting universe. Farewell for now, but not forever. Stay tuned for more adventures that await in the next episode of GovCom Unfiltered. Safe travels on your path to greatness, and remember, we are all on this journey together.